Greetings. Welcome once again to Political Empire. I'm your host, Jeff Horseman from the Press Enterprise and PE.com. And we're going to be talking with reporter David Olson about how diverse this Congress is. But first, Riverside County Supervisor John Benoit has been elected by his peers to be the board's chairman for 2013. Now, this role calls for Benoit, who represents the county's desert communities, to lead the Board of Supervisors meetings. He generally sits in the Senator dais and kind of moves things along. And joining him as vice chairman is going to be Supervisor Jeff Stone. And usually the tradition is that the person who is the vice chairman this year is the chairman next year. So Supervisor Stone can probably look forward to that in 2014. All right, now we're going to talk about the 113th Congress, which is ranking as the most diverse in U.S. history. And here to talk about that is Multicultural Affairs reporter David Olson. So, David, how diverse are we in this Congress?
Well, it's very diverse. It's by far the most diverse Congress in U.S. history, and it reflects a growing diversity in the nation as a whole. Here in the Inland Empire is a good example. Ru Ruiz, who beat Mary Bono Mack in a district that includes Hemet, the Pass, and the Coachella Valley. Is Latino, and here in the Riverside, Moreno Valley area of Mark Decano, who is both openly gay and Asian American, and then nationwide, for the first time ever, a majority of Democrats in the House of Representatives are not white men, and it's not as much in the Republican Party. The large majority of folks in the Republican Party are white men, but you also have some exceptions, like Tim Scott was just appointed recently as senator in South Carolina, first African-American senator in a number of years. And you also have a lot of religious diversity, and that also reflects the growing religious diversity of the nation. You had the first Buddhist elected to the Senate in Hawaii, and then the first Hindu elected to the U.S. House, also in Hawaii.
Can you talk a little bit more about, you talk about this, diversity of Congress people, how that's reflected in the nation. I mean, what's going on in the nation that's kind of leading to this trend we're seeing on Capitol Hill?
Well, the country, I looked up some statistics, and the country, for example, in 20, 30 years ago was, you had a large majority of members of Congress who were white Protestants, and the nation has become less and less Protestant. Recently, actually, for the first time in history, a majority of people in the U.S. did not identify as Protestant, and so it's a very big change. And so that diversity, 20, 30 years ago, there were not nearly as many Hindus or Buddhists, for example, in the United States, or as many Muslims. There have been 2 Muslims in the U.S. House for a number of years now, for several years now, and so that reflects the demographic changes in the country as a whole. Same thing with Latino community, much larger Latino population, much larger number of Latino members of Congress.
All right, well, fascinating. Well, thank you very much, David. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Political Empire. Catch you next time.